So the third Python class, we're just gonna first finish the strings project since we didn't get a lot of time to do it last week. Then after we're gonna go over list, a new project, and then we're gonna quickly go through tuples and then another big project.
Okay, so we're moving on to list this week, which is storing groups of items and variables. So creating a list, the format list name, which you have the name of the list and then the items of the list inside of it, use commas to separate the items. And remember, if you want to put text in, you have to use strings. And you use lists instead of storing all your information in strings because they can be manipulated and changed, unlike strings. Getting information from lists. Oh wait, I should show an example first and then a pause. Okay, so here is an example of a list. So if, for example, I have cake ingredients, then I put a bracket and I put a string flour, sugar, milk, butter. Then if I want to print it, I do print cake ingredients. And you can see the whole list is printed right here. So this is creating a list. This is an example. Okay, going back. Okay, getting information from lists. So there's an index position for each item on the list. It has a number assigned to it. It starts from 0. 0 is assigned to the first number, and it continues counting by ones. So 1 is assigned to the second number, 2 is assigned to the third number, and so on and so forth. So by getting one item, first you type the list name, then you put the position of the item that you want to call in brackets. So for example, you put the list name and then bracket 1, this. So for example, you wanted to print the second item of a list, you would do print and then this format right here. I'll show an example after I get to the end of the slide. So getting to a subset of items, you first type the list name and then you put the range of positions that you want to call in brackets with a colon between it. So for example, here it has list name and 2:4. So we can try this out on the replit over here. Okay, so if, for example, I wanted to grab the first item, I could put it into another variable. Like for example, first ingredient equals cake ingredients. And remember the index is 0. So if I wanted to know the first ingredient, I would do print first ingredient. And you can see it printed flour right here. So this is much different. This is like a way to store information in groups and organize it much better. And then testing out the other example, it'd be 1, 2, or 1 to 3. And you can see it printed from index number 1 to index number 2. And usually Python, it doesn't print the last number that you mentioned. So it prints from the first number to that point. So you can see it only printed sugar and milk. It didn't print index number 3, which is butter. Okay, going back to the slides, replacing items. You can replace an item with something else if you know the index position of the item that you want to replace. So here's the format, list, and then you can put the index position of the number that you want where X is, and then the item is what you want to replace it with. So here is another example. Okay, so for example, I decided that my cake didn't want to have flour in it anymore. I could do ingredients. Flour is index number 0, and then you could change it to, I don't know, what's a replacement for flour? For example, whole wheat flour instead of normal flour. And then if we printed it again, you can see that it's changed from flour to whole wheat flour because we changed the index number over here. Okay, moving on. We have adding items to a list. So we use the append function. Here's the example, list name dot append, and you put the item inside. So you can use this as many times you would like, adding on infinitely to your list. So an example here would be if I wanted to add something else to my cake, for example, cake ingredients. Okay, sorry, that was really loud if you could hear that. And then dot append, and you wanted to add olive oil. And then you have to print it out after. And you can see olive oil is added on here at the end. Append always put the items at the end, so remember that. And then after this, we have removing items from a list. So we use del, and here's an example, del list name, and then you put the X is still the index position of the item that you want to delete. So instead of replacing an item here, what if we just deleted flour in general? So we don't want flour anymore, and we would do cake ingredients at the beginning. And then we can see what are the results. See, now there's no more flour in our cake. So the cake's probably not going to look very much like a cake anymore, but we've removed the flour successfully. Okay, going back to the slideshow. Lastly, we have list arithmetic. So we have addition, multiplication. We don't have subtraction or division because that would result in an error. So basically for addition, you add lists to combine them into one list. You add them together by using the plus sign. And for multiplication, you can multiply lists just like strings in order to increase the amount of items in the list. So it's much easier to show through examples. Okay, so if you wanted to multiply, if you had another batch of cake ingredients and cake ingredients 2, and they were, for example, baking soda, or okay, there's another way you could do this. Like cake ingredients 2, okay, wait, you're changing the format. So we name this supplies, and we can make this all the baking supplies we need to make the cake, such as mixing bowl, spoon, measuring cups. Okay, so here we have another list, which is supplies, and then we can add these two lists together to make a list of all the ingredients that we need to make a cake, all the supplies, including both food and including supplies like tools that we need. So we can make another list, baking supplies equals supplies plus ingredients. And then now if we print this out, don't put the spaces in like I am. And you can see all of the supplies are printed. So this is like an easy way to consolidate lists and make one giant list by simply adding them together. And multiplication is, for example, if suddenly we needed a double batch of cakes and we needed double the amount of supplies, so we could do double cake ingredients equals times 2. Remember the operators from last lesson? And we have to print it again. So sugar, milk, butter, olive oil, and then your sugar, milk, butter, olive oil again. So this is helpful, for example, like I said before, you needed to make double of something or you needed extras of what was already in the list. So this concludes the lesson for a list for now. And we're going to go back to the project from last week so you can have some time to work on it. Here's the project again if you need it.
So tuples don't really have a lot to it. They're very similar to list. The only difference is that they have parentheses, as you see here. You make it with the parentheses and there's values inside. There's could be infinite values. And the difference from lists are that you can't change it. You know how Kate told you all about the ways you can manipulate it, add values to the end, delete values, change the values. Tuples can't do that. So here is a very random quick example of a tuple. So like fave animal, dog, cat, I don't know, sheep, goat. And if you print that out, we'll print that. And then if you do like dot append, I don't know, like fish, it won't let you do that because tuple has no attributes for append because it doesn't allow you to add anything. You can get a value by doing like favorite animal equals so that would be the index, and you know index, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's like a position of the list and tuple. So the value with the second index would be sheep. So when you print that out, it will print out sheep. So that's basically all there is to tuples. You can't really do anything with it. The only good thing about tuples is that if you know that you won't change a value or a list of values, you can use tuples so you don't accidentally change it, or so you just know that it's a permanent thing. This would be the project that we were going to do. If you want to screenshot that or something like that so you can work on it by yourself and then ask questions next week, you can also do that. Okay, thank you for coming. See you next week.